Hello, this is Patrick at 1CNC West, and what we're going to do in this training video is take a look at preparing a solid model for toolpath using 1CNC Mill Advantage. Now, it's important to note that Mill Advantage has the exact same geometry tools as Mill Express. And what that means is that you can create wireframe geometry, things like lines, points, arcs, and splines, but you also have the added capability of being able to apply 3-axis toolpath. So to provide this type of training, let's first load a 3D solid model. I'm going to clear the screen and start from scratch. Alright, so let's load our solid model. We're going to head up to the upper left-hand corner, select the Open button, and from there we're going to be loading a step file. So I'm going to select the Step option, and from there, I'm just going to double click on the step file. Once we do this, just use the default, which is Read Surfaces and Solids, and click OK. Once the import's completed, just click OK one more time. And there we go. There's our solid model. And 1CNC has also performed an automatic zoom extents, so we can better take a look at the solid model. Now, the next step is to properly orientate or rotate the part so that it's in the proper position for us to apply the toolpath. So let's do this. The first thing we need to do is to select the geometry. Now you can use any of these selection tools at the top of the screen, or you can use my favorite shortcut, which is Control-A, Control-Alpha on the keyboard. Once the geometry has been selected, we're going to activate the Rotate command by heading up to the top of the screen and clicking on Rotate. Now the first thing 1CNC wants us to do is select the origin in which we'd like to rotate around. We're going to be rotating around X0, Y0, Z0, so I'm just going to click OK. Now if I take my cursor into the graphics area, we can see that we have a digital compass, and it's easy to snap the angle that we'd like to rotate. I just want to rotate 90 degrees, so I'm going to left click. I think that looks great. I'm going to pan down just a little bit. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to flip the part over. So to do that, I'm going to go back into the Rotate command. And again, we're going to use X0, Y0, Z0 as the location to rotate around. I'm going to click OK. But now I'm going to rotate around the X-axis. So down here where it says Rotation X, I'm going to type in 180 for 180 degrees. That looks good, so let's click OK. I'm going to now just pan the view up just a little bit so we can see the part better. The next step, now that we have the part properly rotated, is to position the part exactly where we want it. Now, when we move geometry, we can grab the geometry by a vertice or a point. In this example, I really want a little bit more control than that. For example, I might want to move the part so that the center of the hole is at X0, Y0, Z0. Or maybe I want to move the part so that the theoretical intersection of this edge and this edge is at X0, Y0, Z0. Now, we can easily do that by extracting wireframe geometry from our solid model. In fact, anytime that you want to apply a 2.5-axis toolpath, let me demonstrate. If we head over here, these are all 2.5-axis toolpaths. These types of machining operations require wireframe geometry. So not only can you use wireframe geometry to position the part, you'll also need wireframe geometry to apply this type of toolpath. So how do we do that? How do we extract wireframe geometry? Let me do something first. Let me come down to the color palette. I'm going to change the color and also change the line thickness so that we can see the wireframe geometry a little better. I think that looks good. And let's head back over to the Command Manager, and from there we're going to select our model tools. Now let's select this option called Extract Surface Edges. I can now take my cursor, hover over the face of the solid model right here, and left click, and then when I right-hand mouse click, you can see that 1CNC has easily created that wireframe geometry. I can use that wireframe geometry to help position the part. Let's rotate the view around a little bit. And just by looking at the model, I'm also going to want some wireframe geometry at the base of this boss because I think I'm going to be wanting to apply a profile operation, a 2.5 axis profile operation at the base of this boss. So let's head back over to the command manager, and instead of using extract surface edges, let's use extract an edge. That way I can just left click the edge and OneCNC will create the wireframe geometry along all the tangent edges. Very nice. I'm going to right hand mouse click. All right, so if I rotate this back and forwards, you can see how easy it is to create that wireframe geometry. Now, just like before, if we want to move geometry, we're going to need to select it first. So I'm going to hit Control A on the keyboard, Control Alpha to select everything. Going to hit the spacebar twice to go to a CAD view. That looks good. And let's take a look now how we can use that wireframe geometry to move the part. I'm going to head up here to the top of the screen, select the Move command, and let's say we want to place the very center of that circle, that hole right there, and move it so that's at the origin. So I can left click, take my cursor, and then snap the origin just like that. And what we're doing is we're actually just snapping the wireframe geometry that we created. What if we wanted to move the part so the center of the larger hole was at X0, Y0, Z0? Again, I can left click the center of that wireframe circle we created earlier, come down and snap the origin. Now let's take a look at moving the part by the theoretical intersection of two edges. Simply take your cursor, hover over both edges, then move your cursor to the theoretical intersection and left click. Now you can move the part by its theoretical intersection and snap the origin just like before. Alright, so I'm going to hit the spacebar twice to go to a CAD view, and now you can see that we have the part properly located with the origin in the upper left-hand corner. Now, the next thing we need to do is start to think about how we're going to position and locate the part when applying toolpath to the other side of the part. Now, in this example, we're going to flip the part and we're going to mount it on a tooling plate with dowel pins in the upper left and lower right hand corner of the part. So why don't we use the upper left hand center of the hole, center of the dowel pin, as the X0, Y0, Z0. Now, for OneCNC to understand how we want to mount the part for the second operation and where we want the datum, the X0, Y0, Z0, we're going to need to create a construction plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a few points to help us create that construction plane. I'm going to head over to the command manager, go into our point tool, and all I'm going to do is just left click the center of both of those arcs to create 2 points. Now again, the reason why I did this is those 2 points are going to help us create the new construction plane. Let's head down into the construction plane tools in the lower left hand corner of the screen, and I'm going to use the option called Create Construction Plane through 3 points. So I'm going to select this option. Now the first point that I select is going to be the X0, Y0, Z0 of the new construction plane, and that's exactly where I want to click. So I'm going to left click there. The second point I click is going to be the X positive direction of the new construction plane. And the last point I select can really be any one of these points along the edge up here. That's simply going to represent Y positive. So I'm going to left click just like that. So if I were to turn on the Display Active Plane option as well as the Use Plane Coordinate System option, you can now see that the axis nome is exactly where we want it. That's going to be the brand new construction plane. That's going to be the brand new origin for when we start applying toolpath to the second side of the part. Let's save this construction plane by clicking on Save, and we can give it any name that we want. I'm simply going to call it Side 2, just like that, and then we'll click OK. All right, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to create some stock. Let's close the construction plane tools down, and I'm going to hit the spacebar twice, go to a CAD view, and for the stock, I'm just going to use a simple rectangle. Let's head back over to the command manager, select our line tools, and then rectangle. Now, you can use coordinates if you'd like, but I'm simply going to just grid point snap. Just by taking my cursor, left clicking, and then I'm just going to drag down to the lower right and left click just like that. All right, that's it for this training video. We took a look at loading the solid model, repositioning the solid model so that it was in the proper location. We also took a look at creating wireframe geometry. And then finally, we took a look at creating a brand new construction plane for when we applied toolpath to the second side of the part. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.